start with a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock, and that is cut just a little bit less than 4 by 5 1/4. So it's cut at 3 7/8, I think, by 5 1/8. Obviously, you can make it whatever you want. So let's see. We're going to take our crumb cake and one of our blender brushes, and I'm going to dip it in here and rub it around. I'm going to start off my paper a little bit, and then I'm just going to come on here and I'm going to brush it on in a circular motion. And so that will be getting the ink off. I'm using a pretty good pressure on here. These brushes are, it doesn't even look like there are bristles there, but it's just so many bristles, and it's so really soft. So I'm just going to make it a little bit darker here, and I'm probably going to get it so that it's darkest right here at the bottom, and then it fades up a little bit. Now I could just keep rubbing this off, and it would be getting the ink all off this brush. Because my next two colors are kind of closely related, I'm going to go into the next lightest color. I'm going to switch my brushes. I'm going to go to my blues now. This is Coastal Cabana. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick up some ink, just get that first little touch off, just so it's not quite as harsh. I start with a light pressure, and then as the ink comes off it, I can add a little bit more pressure. But you can see that the ink's coming right off. It's blending in very nicely. You don't get the harsh streaks that you might get with daubers or with sponges, because those sponges are pretty porous, so sometimes you get those streaky looks with it. And the sponge brayers just take a lot of brayering. This seems to go much faster, and I have a much better control. So you can see I blended that towards the top too, because I really want my Pacific Point and my Coastal Cabana to blend in nicely. And so I'm just blending. And you can see how nicely these two colors go together. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker up here at the top. All right, and so there's my background. Pretty easy, right? All right, I'm going to set my ink pads aside for now. And again, what I can do is I can actually just keep rubbing this on scratch paper till I have most of the ink off. And by this point, there's not a ton of ink left on here, so I could just go to a different blue and pick it up. I probably wouldn't want to go to yellow because I might end up making a little bit of green. But when I'm done my stamping session, and I'm not going to use this for, you know, a little bit, I'll go ahead and I'll just rinse it under the sink. The tap water takes it off, and then you just let it to dry. So you'll want it to give it to dry maybe, you know, a day anyway. It's so, these fibers are packed so closely together that you'd want to give it a little time to dry. So now what I want to do is I need to cut out this overlay. So let me put my brushes aside, and I'm going to get out my handy dandy Stampin' Cut and Emboss. So let's see, let's put this out of the way. And I already have a piece of pearlized paper ready to go. Now this pearlized paper, this die that I'm going to be using takes a full quarter sheet of cardstock or paper. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The whole thing will be cut. It really takes up the whole front of the card. You can see it here. These tendrils, just they go right up to the top and right down to the bottom and side to side. So you will need a full quarter sheet there. Unless you want to miss some of those tendrils, and then, you know, I guess that would happen. So here we go. I'm going to take my number 1 plate and my number 2 plate, so with my dies, and I need a number 3. Then I need my pearlized paper. By the way, it is pearlized on both sides. So if you make a mistake on one side, you always have the other side. And I'm going to get my die out here. And let's see. Turn it just a little bit so that I have all those tendrils. You'll notice that it sticks out over the paper just a little bit, but it does cut inside that a little bit. The cutting edge is just a little bit on the inside. So I'm going to slide this out, put my second number 3 plate over the top, and I'm going to run it through. So you want to do this first before you emboss. And so you've got this really beautiful, I mean, it's nice enough, and you can actually stamp on this. And if you stamp on this, you'll get, you know, you'll get those shells, and it will be pretty. But I'm telling you, you'd be crazy not to emboss this, because the embossing thing is, it just adds so much dimension. Now, in here, I know that I've got a little bit of paper still stuck. So sometimes if you just drop it, some extra little pieces come out. And that way you don't actually have to spend time and dig it out with the little take your pick tool. I'm going to set, I do need to run this through again because I need to emboss it. So I'm going to use my base plate again, the number 1. And in order to emboss, I need the number 4 plate. And the directions again are right here. So when you have an embossing folder, you want the base, the embossing folder with the paper in it, and then that dark top plate. So I need to get out my embossing folder, which I put somewhere when I was showing you all it. Oh, there it is, under my scrap paper. So here's the trick here. You got to line it up. And it's not that hard. Let's see. So it may be hard to see on camera. So I start by trying to line the shells up. But really the best way to line this up is to line up the seaweed. So you'll be able to see when everything's kind of in the seaweed. Just so. There you go. And then you just close it. Put it on here and run it through. Okay, I'm going to get my Stampin' Cut and Emboss out of the way. And when I take this out, you'll be able to see that I have a beautiful pearlized piece right here. So pretty. So we're almost done with this particular project. All we have to do is assemble. Now I've got some options here. So I know for a fact that I'm going to put this on top of here. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to do it with some, what some people call the green glue. I call it the mono multi, or sometimes just glue. But I also want to protect these pieces a little bit if they're going through the mail. So I will actually use some dimensionals and just put them in a few places on the shell. That just keeps it popped up a little bit. Protects some of that embossing. Not that it's going to get really damaged, but it will just, if it gets flattened at all, then it sort of, you know, loses a bit of its appeal. And then what I want to do is I'm going to actually just put a little bit of glue. Oh, wait, I should take these pieces off before I get my hands into the glue and everything. Oop. There we go. And so on just a couple of these tendrils, I'm going to put just a little bit of glue. And I don't have to use a lot because the dimensionals are going to keep it down. Just a little bit. That's probably good. Now, I can see where I put the glue down so I don't put my fingers in it. All right, and so I'm just gonna put it on like that, I think. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna touch down where I know that I put some of the glue. There we go. Honestly, these colors just make me wish I was on a beach. It's my husband and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary next week, and originally we had planned to make a big trip, a nice tropical vacation, but of course you know what got in the way, right? Stupid COVID. So now I have an option, and you guys are going to weigh in. So I can put this on a piece of Coastal Cabana, which almost disappears here, except for down at the bottom. And then onto my black piece. I did decide to go with a black base instead of the Pacific Point on this one. I just wanted to do a little bit different. Or I can put it on the Pacific Point. And put that down. Everybody wants the Coastal Cabana. All right. It's unanimous. I was going to have to figure something out if you guys disagreed. I was going to have to flip a coin. I'll put a little bit of glue on the back of that. And flip it over. I think I like the Coastal Cabana too. It looks, oh, hi Joyce. Joyce, you're too late. I just saw that. Sorry. Didn't know you were watching, Joyce. Welcome. All right, so we've got that down now, and we can mount it on to the basic black cardstock. I really do prefer probably, well, I can't say I totally prefer the green glue to the Stampin' Seal Plus, but I am so close to being out of the Stampin' Seal that I can't use it. I'll just run out on camera. I know I will. So there's the base of the card. And, oh, I know I'm not supposed to hit the desk because it shakes it a little bit. Sorry. Now, all that's left is we need a greeting on there. And so you can see here, I just had the greeting that matched the card base. And so here I've gone ahead and I've stamped and embossed, but you know what? Let's do it on camera anyway. So I have a piece of black cardstock, just a scrap. And I will get out my Versamark pad. In the stamp set, there are those really, really great greetings. And I just did the friends. I'm not going to actually cut this out because you don't need to see me. Well, I guess you could wait and see me do that. But friends are like seashells, or you're unique and completely amazing. You know what? Let's change it up a little bit. I can decide what I like later, right? So I'm going to take the, will this one fit on here? Oh, cat hair. Oh my goodness. My cats are annoying. All right. So I'm just going to stamp in Versamark Oh, there we go. That's better. I can see it glimmering. I'm going to take my white embossing powder. Just pour it on. All right, now sometimes you get these little strays. I didn't use my embossing buddy, which we no longer sell apparently. Very odd. Okay, so I just flicked the back of the card, and that usually gets a lot of those extras off there. Set that aside. Now I have my heat tool, so it's probably not gonna, you're not gonna be able to hear me, so I won't talk. Notice how I kind of have my hands and my gun, oops, facing the same direction. That way I don't burn myself. And now it's turned all bright white, so I can stop. So I just give it a second so it sets up. I don't want to, because I'm going to have to be cutting around it, it'll be burning me if I touch it right away. But it should be good now. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut around it, leaving a little bit of a border. And I just sort of follow the words. It doesn't have to be anything, you know, too scientific. I just follow the layout of the words. This is probably one of my favorite things to do with words now, is to emboss them onto a dark card and cut them out. It just adds so much, it just pops. It's getting in my way, so I'm just going to cut that extra off. So it doesn't take a long time to fussy cut this. I think it's worth the payoff. Okay, so there we have that little saying. And we just have to attach it to our card. Let's see, where am I going to attach it? Yeah, I think I still like it up there though. So I'm going to get my mini dimensionals out again. Nope, they're right here. Guess I don't have to look very far for them. I'll probably put 3 on. Take this off. And let's see, I gotta look, make sure it's kind of straight. It is. You are unique and completely amazing. I think all that we need now is a couple of our Stampin' Rounds, or Opal Rounds, sorry, Stampin' Rounds, whatever. And I put them aside, so here they are. And again, typically the rule is you want an odd number. For some reason, that's just a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Ooh, where to put them now? That's always the big question, right? I don't know that it really matters a whole lot. You typically want to put them in some sort of a triangular fashion. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So see, we got a little triangle here. You can put on more, 5, but again, odd numbers are really what they say it is all about. Thank you, Diana. I can't take credit for this card. Somebody else designed it, but I sure do know how to find the nice ones. So what we need is something for the inside now. And again, we've got these beautiful stamps here, so we could just go ahead and take a shell. And we could also decorate the envelope as well. But we're just going to take one of these. Let's take the Coastal Cabana. I'm going to get all inky. I didn't clean my, I was doing something earlier, and so I didn't clean it very well. And that's the problem. There you go. I've got just nice little, look at the detail on that shell. It's so pretty. And normally I probably wouldn't make one that color, but it does go with a card. So there we go. That's what we have to do. And I would probably do the same thing on the envelope, or I probably would, because the stickers here don't necessarily, they're not the same colors as in my card. So I'd probably do the same thing on the envelope. Oh, see? Oh, here's what happens. When you take the little blob and stamp over it, it just adds a little bit of a wash in the background. Gives it a little bit of a watercolor look. But I think I'm going to go with just this one. So who's going to get this card in the mail? It's going to be one of you three. So let's play a little game. Pick a number between 1 and 100. Closest person will get this card in the mail. And I will send it so that you can send it out. So I'm not going to write in it. I might put a sticky in it, but I won't write in it. But you need to guess a number between 1 and 100. While you're doing that, while you're guessing, I am going to show you a couple other cards that I've made with this particular set. So this one is very similar. It actually uses the designer series paper. One of them is the one that kind of has the So Saffron into the Melon Mambo. I've stamped directly on pearlized paper here. When you stamp on the pearlized paper, you just have to give it a little bit of extra time for it to dry. Because here's the last card that I'm going to show you. This one, I'm proud of this one, because normally I actually look all over the internet and find out what I have, what I like, and I copy them. That's kind of what I did here and here. But this one I made all by myself. I came up with it all by myself.